Hello world, Oddtom here. This is my first commentary video, and I thought I'd start with one of my favorites. So if you haven't seen Madoka Magica yet, I would highly recommend finishing it before watching this video because this will contain heavy spoilers. Are you still here? Cool. So Madoka Magica is essentially a coming-of-age story of 5 girls and their endearingly naive, yet clumsy escapades into the real world, where each episode the girls learn a valuable life lesson, and through it all, the true values of friendship. At least that's what we're led to believe until about the 3rd episode. It turns out, Madoka Magica is more like the Neon Genesis Evangelion of the magical girl genre. Set in a universe where young girls are forced to confront an evil world full of dark secrets, delving deep into the psychology of the main cast members in what becomes more of a surreal horror than what the opening advertises. For example, the supposedly evil witches they have been fighting up to this point turn out to actually be other magical girls who have given into their despair, and that the ultimate destiny of a magical girl is to either die or become that which she fights. This changes a lot of things we thought we knew about events that have come to pass, because it means that all witches the girls have been fighting up to this point were once actual people like them. It means that Charlotte's grief seed that the 2 girls find outside their school was likely one of their classmates who must have just given into her despair only moments prior. And as we go back through, examining the witches the girls have encountered, we are left with one very big hanging question that is never properly addressed throughout the entire series. If all witches were former magical girls, then who was the person powerful enough to become the witch that Homura Akemi could not defeat? Just who was the magical girl that became Walpurgisnacht? When I first watched this show, I thought that Walpurgisnacht might be what Homura would become when she finally accepted that she could not win. It would explain both why she was never able to defeat it, and why it was so powerful. Kyubey explains that a magical girl's power comes from the number of destinies that she affects, and hypothesizes that the reason Madoka is so powerful is because Homura continues trying to save her. This is a flawed, or rather incomplete, theory that I will return to later, the essence of which is that Homura has connected as many of her own timelines as she has Madoka's, which should make her just as powerful. This makes sense considering her initial wish, to become strong enough to save Madoka. Each time she returns to the past, she connects another timeline, and her magical potential increases. The argument here being that if Walpurgisnacht was Homura's witch form, it would mean that it would grow just as much stronger with each reset as well. And there are several other arguments you can make to tie Walpurgisnacht to Homura, including the physical similarities with the clockwork gears, and the fact that it simply appears rather than leaving a scent track, as all other witches do. But as beautiful as this theory sounds, it is simply not possible. The biggest problem is that Walpurgisnacht exists before Homura makes her contract with Kyubey. If Walpurgisnacht is Homura's witch, how could it exist before Homura becomes a magical girl? We can try to throw time travel logic at the problem, except that time doesn't work like that in this universe. If actions in the future affected the past, then Homura would never have had to fight Walpurgisnacht because Madoka in the future already wished away all witches. Furthermore, Homura was only pushed to make a contract as a direct result of Madoka's death, which was caused by Walpurgisnacht. To drive a final stake into this theory, the Rebellion movie takes place within Homura's witch, which is an entirely separate entity. In the PSP game, it is given the name Homurari, further confirming that Walpurgisnacht is not Homura Akemi's witch. So we know who it is not, but that doesn't really help us solve the mystery of who it is. So let's take a step back for a moment and examine what we do know. There is overwhelming evidence supporting the fact that Madoka Magica is a modern adaptation of Goethe's Faust, a German tragic play written in the late 1700s and early 1800s. There are too many similarities to cover them all here, so that will have to be a video for another time. For now, the most important correlation to mention is that Madoka represents Gretchen, which is made obvious by the runes labeling her witch that translate to crime-held Gretchen, and if Madoka is Gretchen, then Homura must represent Faust. In the first part of the German tragedy, as Gretchen is sent to prison, Mephistopheles takes Faust to the Walpurgis Festival on Bald Mountain, an event that he refers to as Walpurgisnight. So how does this apply to Madoka Magica? Well, Japanese is quite different from Germanic languages, and translations inevitably alter their meaning. In the English version, Walpurgisnacht is referred to as a single entity, but in the original Japanese dialogue, when Homura mentions that a Walpurgisnight is coming to town, it seems almost intentionally ambiguous whether she is referring to a single entity or an entire event. In a 2011 interview, Urabuchi revealed that Walpurgisnacht was originally a single witch, but it has grown by combining with other witches. We already know that witches can join together, as Sayaka admits that she was only able to appear to Homura by merging their witches. And when Madoka finally makes her wish and Walpurgisnacht vanishes, it seems to split into 32 distinct entities, implying that its true form is actually an aggregation of 32 separate witches. In episode 9, Kyoko claims that Walpurgisnacht is the most powerful witch, but Madoka is able to overcome its power in 2 separate timelines. This indicates that Walpurgisnacht isn't necessarily something special, it merely has a set of powers we have never encountered before, one that merely attacking cannot defeat. Walpurgisnacht's witch card reveals that she represents the fool who continuously spins in circles, and her nature is helplessness, or hopelessness, which were explained by Madoka, whose power and wish was based in hope, was the only one able to defeat it. In the same way that Mommy's power was ineffective against Charlotte, Homura's power is simply ineffective against that of Walpurgisnacht. We know that a magical girl's power is derived from her wish, and that these powers persist into their witch form, and this would apply to Walpurgisnacht as well. There's no way to know what her wish was, but when it became corrupted, she seems to have gained the power to absorb the wishes of other magical girls at an impressive scale. A wish that might have granted this power could easily have been made by a lonely girl who simply wished for friends. If true, it might help explain another interesting note. We see Homura fighting Walpurgisnacht over and over and over, and there's no way to tell how many times she has reset the clock, but she always manages to survive each encounter long enough to turn back time. In fact, the closest we ever see her get to dying herself is at the hands of a terrified mommy. There is no doubt that Homura is one of the most powerful of all magical girls, with the ability to store a nearly endless supply of firearms, bombs, and who knows how many grieve seeds. Despite this, as much as Walpurgisnacht knocks her around, it never really seems to try to kill Homura. Even as she lays defeated, trapped under a pile of rubble, Walpurgisnacht just sits there and watches. At any moment, it could have killed her, but it doesn't. It's almost as if it doesn't want to kill Homura, instead forcing her to become a witch as well, maybe to join her, to be her friend too? Quite possibly the most hopeless of all wishes. It's easy to dehumanize witches, but each and every one of them, including Walpurgisnacht, was once a girl with an innocent wish. In her case, it seems that her wish was granted in a way that she wasn't quite prepared for. Her wish did come true. She found others like herself, friends to be with, spinning on into eternity, resulting in one of the most feared and powerful witches known to the magical world. So I suppose, when all is said and done, Madoka Magica really is about the power of friendship. What do you know?